We will, we will pre-practice, do some things that fit the mode as we always do. We always have a 10-minute period in which I instruct the beginning of the practice, what I call the core groupings. The first day, normally those core groupings are some kind of tackle, shed, strip, and offensively ball security. And the second day, it's normally a screen drill. The third day would be an interception drill for the defense and an offensive drill that dealt with hots and sight adjustments. Now, what we'll do, even though we're in shells, we'll still have form tackling, so that our body's in the right position, the helmets are in the right position. We'll focus on the angles of the secondary people as they come down, which we're not very good. We didn't talk about that. I didn't mention that. But the angle with which we come down as we see the ball appear, got us in trouble too. So we do have that to try to work and improve upon as well. So that's what I mean by the fundamentals. And the fundamental period is right away in the beginning of practice. And so we'll have an emphasis along the lines with what obviously we need to improve upon.
You mentioned the other day or last week that you met with your leadership council.
Mm-hmm.
Have you met this week with them?
No, I haven't yet, no.
Do you plan to?
Yes, I will.
How effective are they in communicating?
They're good. I mean, I've not seen anything that would tell me otherwise. Whatever the discussion is about, that's their role, is to communicate it to the other players, so that when I begin to talk about it, they've heard about it, they can interpret it, they know exactly what I mean by it. And we've always done a pretty good job of that. Well, the number one thing I think is that anytime you lose, you're down. You're down, and that's just the way it is. And we talked about, realizing that's the normal case, but having to be above that, having to look at what are the problems and go about our business of trying to rectify them. Valid self-analysis is critical. We're not an excuse out there. I don't think any of the players would offer that. I think you have to look hard at it, and you have to understand things have to improve. Now, we're also halfway through the season, so we're not going into a training camp mode, and that's been, as you well know, part of our issue's been that, from time to time we've been able to practice, period, and that's the way that the cards have been dictated. But nevertheless, the message is that, and the message really is that it's a one-game season for us. We have a bye coming up. Fortunately for us, we did have the bye where you would like to have a bye. It wasn't after the second week, it wasn't after the third week as we've had in the past. So, use it properly and utilize everything that we possibly can to put ourselves in a position, give ourselves a chance to win. And in so doing, if and when we do win, then obviously the bye can be something that really helps us, reinforces us, and gives us a lift when we need it. Now, the other thing that you didn't mention about the leadership council is that's part of their job. Leaders are lifters. Leaders are lifters. And normally what has to happen when a team does fight their way out of a problem, that your best players have to show the way. They're the ones that show the way. The guys that are in the role of the foot soldiers, they'll play and they'll work their tails off. But what ultimately shows are when the guys that are recognized as your quality football players, your better football players, they have to play themselves into a position where they're showing the way, and that's what has to be mentioned as well. I usually have a lot of information to share with them, and then there's a point at which they can go ahead and interpret or ask me questions about it. But normally, even for as long as we've been doing this, it's an information sharing thing from me to them, and then they try to understand what I'm saying and ask questions about it. They do have an occasional question, but not normally. Well, we've got a lot of room for improvement. There's no doubt about that. I don't think anyone would argue with you on that one. I think it's the fact that it's before a bye. How else would you look at it? You have a one-game schedule because there is one game, and then you do have a bye. So, what would you look for beyond that one game? There's one game, and let's put all our energy and all our focus in that, do the best job we can, reinforce ourselves on the practice field, not be sensitive at all to the circumstances that have taken place, the criticism that's coming forth, the idea that there is self-analysis here, and everyone will improve if we do, in fact, improve ourselves in just a few fundamental areas, I think we'll play better football. We'll be a better football team. Now, can we play from behind? Can we give up the big play? Obviously, that's part of the thing that has to stop. So I think it does. I think it does. Although there's a lot to study. There's a lot to study. This is a team that, as you say, we did play a few years ago. We do have to read. We do have to study. That'll be part of my post-practice message today to them. As far as getting to know them, we've introduced the team. We've done it from a verbal standpoint. We've done it from a video standpoint, which we always do on Wednesday morning. They do have a grasp of that. They've had their individual meetings, basically first, second down, and our special teams meetings. So we'll reinforce that part of it afterwards as well. It's the timing of the bye. That's really the important thing to focus on, and the fact that after the bye, there are X amount of games to play. It's very, very important, I think. To go out, as you talk about all three phases doing something together to support one another, that's what you're talking about. Let's get off to the good start. All you got to do is go back a couple of weeks, and we had run a bunch of games together where we scored on our first possession, and we were 3 and out on our first possession. So it's not that far back if you just go back and look. And the interesting thing is winning the toss and getting the ball. I'm not so sure that wouldn't help us too.
Is Manningham going to work there?
Good football team. Aggressive football team. A 4-3 team that's averaging a lot of points. Has a combination from an offensive standpoint of big wide receivers, an accurate quarterback, outstanding running game. Defensively, a fast, physical defensive team, veteran corners. A team that's has ratcheted up their pressure package in the few weeks preceding our game. Outstanding return game. And Sproles, you got you look at the Denver game and you think to yourself, wow, Denver ran a punt and a kickoff back. Well, so did San Diego. They ran a punt back. So all three phases, they run well. They're a good football team. They're well led, et cetera. Okay, thank you.